It's not like you're finding a bad person and putting them away. I used to always say the truth is found more in the nuance, right? There's going to be some subtlety to that relationship where you're going to find, the real business, the real goal.
I can't remember whether it was in a testimony to Parliament or an inquiry, but I remember you mentioning the distinction between foreign interference and foreign influence. Can you explain the difference?
Yeah, we look at the CSIS mandate, there is foreign interference, two types. One is where they're basically targeting diaspora communities, which we call it transnational repression, but legally it's more into foreign interference. And that's where a foreign state will target, survey, harass, all sorts of things, people in those particular communities in Canada. It could be Chinese, could be Persian, could be Sikh, anything. The other side of the coin of foreign interference is the foreign influence, and that's where it's very subtle. It's a foreign state getting close to someone, let's say in one of the three levels of government, or a politician, and it can be unwitting, or it can be more, I guess you could say, obvious, and it's really designed to have that Canadian at some point, let's say, make policy decisions or input things that will be favorable to that foreign state. So as you can see, it's really hard at times to delineate what's normal diplomatic activity with what's foreign interference. And the clincher is that the activity is clandestine. If the foreign state is using clandestine means in that foreign influence, then of course it meets the threshold of the CSIS Act, and it's a threat to national security. If there's no clandestine aspect to it, it's diplomacy, and we need to accept it as that. When I ran the China program, there was a percentage of time with the foreign interference. Not a lot of time, but it was there, and we know now that the foreign interference threat has mushroomed considerably since when I was working that particular program, where we see a more, I would say, more selective targeting of politicians by a foreign state. Not so much the party. They don't target the party so much. They target a politician that they think may be able to help them, or they target a politician they want to harass.
How do they do that?
Well, a lot of it's through social media. We've heard of cases in elections where a candidate or, let's say an MP has been, I guess you could say, maligned. And it's challenging, I think, to try to trace the breadcrumbs right back to the foreign state, but it is there. I mean, for the service to look at it, there has to be a foreign state. But there's more and more of it. On as far as the other part of foreign interference, transnational repression, a lot of it is the foreign state. Let's take China, for example. They target the family members. If you're living in Toronto, let's say, and you have relatives in Hong Kong, suddenly your mother's called in, or your brother doesn't get a job because they want you to cease your activities, which is maybe free expression in Canada, but in China they see that as a threat to national security. Dissent, for example. So a lot of it is these foreign states is they leverage what's going to hurt you the most, and for a lot of Canadians, it's their family members or friends back in that country. Has
anyone ever been arrested or expelled from Canada for anything like this?
Well, arrest. That's the problem with foreign interference is we have a long way to go in terms of prosecuting, and we have some changes now with Bill C-70 on that. But yes, people have been expelled from Canada. We call it persona non grata. We saw, I think, 2-3 years ago, a Chinese diplomat in Toronto was basically given a heave-ho because of some of these egregious activities. So this, in the past, it happens. They're usually kept quiet. It really falls to global affairs how they want to handle these things, whether it's a démarche or whether they want to send them home. But a lot of it is usually kept quiet.
Why?
I think just in the interests of diplomacy, really. As a collector of intelligence, this may sound odd, but I never really cared. We did our job. There's advantages in having these people here if we want to think long term. But I think ultimately a PNG is a political reaction. It's a political expression when Canada does that. Does it mitigate the activity? Yeah, a little bit, but it's more to send a message back to that other country than anything else.
What do you love so much about counterintelligence?
Well, what I loved about counterintelligence is that things were never what they appeared to be at first. You never really knew, and there was always a certain need to be skeptical. It's not law enforcement work. It's trying to find the hand of a foreign state and trying to collect on what they're doing without them knowing, and that's kind of intrigues me in a way. But it's not like you're finding a bad person and putting them away. I used to always say the truth is found more in the nuance, right? There's going to be some subtlety to that relationship where you're going to find, the real business, the real gold. It's ultimately divining the intentions of a foreign state, and they want to keep that stuff secret.